Welcome back to Photography for People Who Are Not Photographers. The big idea of the compose step, the lesson you just completed, was how to use viewpoint to arrange the visual elements in the viewfinder to create an image that accentuates the subject and de-emphasizes or eliminates those visual elements that detract from the subject. The big idea of the expose step, the focus of this lesson, is to use the controls available in the camera to further adjust the image to help the viewer to focus on the subject, and then to capture the image in the camera. How do we do that? We expose the photo. In this lesson, we'll focus on three topics: using exposure, using focus, and finally, the culmination of propose, compose, and expose, capturing the image. First, let's talk about exposure. For our purposes here, exposure is the intensity of light in the image. How we adjust the exposure varies by camera. Read the manual. If we're going to take good photographs, it is critical that you know how to adjust exposure. I repeat, read the manual. What is the impact of different exposures on a photo? I only took one picture of this father and daughter. The yellow square simulates the location which was used to set exposure in the camera. Note that different cameras indicate this location in different ways. I set the exposure based on the father's face. If I had set the exposure to his white shirt, the photo would have been underexposed. And if I had set exposure to the dark background, it would have looked similar to this, with the subject overexposed. The lesson in all of this is to set exposure to the subject in the image. In the previous lesson, Composed, we told you we could use exposure to eliminate or de-emphasize the background. Notice in the first photo how the dark background totally disappeared because the exposure was set to the subject. Here's another example. In order to de-emphasize a very busy and distracting background, I exposed to the brightest object, the reflection of the sun on the statue's leg. The result was that the background and much of the statue was underexposed, but still resulting in an interesting photo. And another example, in which exposure was set to the one person I wanted to capture. In scenes which have high contrast, exposure can be used to de-emphasize the background and emphasize the subject. The second control available in virtually all cameras is focus. Focus refers to the fuzziness of visual elements in the photo. Keeping the subject in focus, or while the rest of the photo is out of focus, such as this, is another way to accentuate the subject by de-emphasizing the background. The eye is naturally attracted to the clearest visual element in the photo. Just as with exposure, how to adjust focus varies by the camera. Now, let's take the picture. You identified the subject in the propose step. You then arranged the visual elements in the image in the compose step. You further adjusted the image using camera controls in the expose step, and now it's time to capture the image. Gently push the button without shaking or moving the camera. In the next lesson, Transpose, we'll discuss a few common changes you can make to your photo using software that comes with virtually every camera.